All right, we're gonna get started. Y'all know me, I like to start on time. And I'm gonna be brief because I'm gonna let Philip take it from here. And we've got some folks here. Thank y'all for being here and thanks for everybody for coming. Thank y'all because this came from the SWAT.
Strategic meeting.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing these now. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
It's a couple of big items. We've talked about the stormwater and how there's gonna have to be a certain amount of fee applied to everybody's account, although we're gonna try to keep it very small because there is a lot of issues with this. And we just appreciate everybody being here. And then, Chris, I think you'll probably have a little to do with the zoning part, right?
Long before, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, thank y'all for being here and I hope it's informative to you.
All right, so thank everyone for showing up. I've showed this presentation a couple of times. I have condensed it because of time tonight. Have you seen it before? Nobody in here? Okay, all right. So the goal here is, and please ask questions even if you want to. I think that's just open communication. So I'm gonna try to take about 15 minutes and kind of lay the history out of how we got here today. And then CC, our stormwater engineers, will take over. JJ Thornton and Mr. Steve Casey, they're gonna talk about the user fee part of it. But you guys all seen the slide when you come in. That was kind of back 4 or 5 years ago, and some of the events that happened. And what we're doing here is kind of how do we get from 2020 to 2026, and kind of explain that in about 15 minutes. All right, so in 2021, after one of those big rainfalls, the MPAS is the municipal advisory service we use. And so they did some studies for us, and some of the places that they focused on was Wall Street, Logan Street, West Cooper, North Main, and Railroad Street.
Philip,
Yes, sir.
this has actually been going on since 2014.
Okay. And there was a big flood in 2010 too, so yeah. Let me rephrase that. When I got involved, in going out and looking at FEMA stuff and taking pictures and documenting. So, but yes, good point. So they did some field visits, and the key locations again were the ones that we just talked about. Here's some of the pictures that were on the slideshow in the beginning, and you'll see some of these areas with the pictures when we get to the actual study we did with our engineers. So here was some of the impasse recommendations. This was back in 2021, I believe. Develop a comprehensive storm range mapping plan. Establish some permanent payment easements. Explore funding options. Team of the Corps of Engineers, etc. Takeaways were addressing drainage issues, comprehensive approach, new problems. And the last thing on here that MTAS recommended was consult an engineering firm and implement a stormwater utility. So we did consult that firm. We haven't implemented the utility yet. So in September 22 is when we engaged with CEC to develop the stormwater, to evaluate existing stormwater infrastructure, develop the conceptual modifications to alleviate that flooding. And still, we were focused in the same areas: North College, Florida Avenue, Halone, North Main. The estimate fee was $100,000. Start within 2 weeks of authorization, completion in 6 months. I don't know if it was 6 months, but we did complete it. Their scope of the services were initial meetings, and we had 3 or 4 trips to collect data, analyze the conditions, the conceptual improvements, layouts, narratives, permitting requirements, cost estimates. We have all that. Present findings and answer questions, all that good stuff. So we completed that to this point. So here was some of the engineering results. So we got a south tributary and north tributary. You guys step in at any time. So the south tributary, if you look at this is kind of where the, this is the Halone area. If you look at how the water flows down the hill, gets right here around the laundromat, you see the water, how it's pooling up. Those were a lot of the pictures you saw in the slideshow beginning, and it goes on down Railroad Street, or East Cooper Railroad, and all these areas where water is just sitting on these, like a 10-year event, 24 hours, 5 inches. Those are major to us, and this is how it impacts us. Normal rains, there's still impact there. There's impact, but not when we have these large events. When we move over to the north tributary, we're going around Edgewood, hitting the ball fields, those parks over there, Rotary Park, and it's going down by the schools. You can see right here around the middle school, high school, how it's really collecting. going back behind Kipper Cars right there at North Main. It's just intense flooding. So the goal was, how do we get this water out of town, either faster or slower? And that's where they'll come in through the whole design process. Any questions about that?
Philip, can you kind of explain what the result of that MTAS 2021 study pretty much said? That Mount Pleasant did not have a stormwater utility at all.
Nope.
And they didn't recommend that we make any modifications at that time without this plan from the engineering.
Yep. Thank you
Yeah,
for reminding
because
that,
if we
Corey.
did move if we started moving in some place and didn't know how it could impact downstream, we would be maybe diverting one problem and then creating others. So that's the reason there was no action taken, because we had to get all of these
Yeah.
steps before anything could be done.
And a good point, and I promise I won't throw any shade at previous administrations or whatever, but the mindset for years and years is like, we don't have stormwater, we don't know how it got there. Well, obviously, a lot of it's under public way, right? And we know under public way with streets, all that infrastructure is crumbling. So should we kick that can, or should we identify the problems, and we have, what are some of the solutions? We have that, and then we go from there. So I couldn't sit on my hands and go, we don't have stormwater. Yes, we have issues. Yes, it's under public way, right? So we got to address that. But good point. Thanks, Corey. All right, so some probable costs, and that's where I cut a lot of things out of the slides because we've got a lot of things to get to. So Wall Street, and when we did these probable costs, I want to get to the user fee. I feel like we thought it out very well off operations and capital costs. But probable costs in tomorrow's money, not today's money. Wall Street, $1.4 million. Walnut Street, $500,000. North Main at the laundromat, $1.8 million. Florida Avenue, $4 million. The reason that being, we have a lot of drainage running under people's houses. We've got to get that back into public way. So a lot of easements, a lot of acquisitions, those kind of things. Halong, you guys all know about Halong. That whole street needs to be rebuilt. We have JJ, how big is that? Like,
36 maybe.
36, carrying the water down that tributary, down to the laundromat, all that good stuff. So that whole thing has to be rebuilt. Goodloe is a part of that, 1.4, Edgewater and First Avenue. There's other tributaries, so estimated at over $14 million in tomorrow's money. Because this doesn't get fixed overnight, right? We know this is a multi-year process. So some additional projects from MTAS that they looked at, the middle school athletic fields. Y'all all seen that over Brookside, right? One of the videos was that drainage that goes on around and down there. We have alleviated some of that with the new development inside there, but still, there's some drainage there that needs to be slowed down. How do we get there? That's working with our community partners to slow that down, if we can. So that was Sugar Creek and Mockingbird. So we have a study on it from MTAS. Glass Street, that's another one, a study we did with MTAS, where water's inundating down Glass Street, right in the corner where Glass Street Church of Christ is. It's destroyed that road. That's a part of, we've got to try to address that. How do we fix that? That wasn't a part of these tributary studies, but as far as a long-term stormwater management program, absolutely, that's got to be a part of it. It's got to be a part of it. And just recently, Conway and Gray off Arrowmount Road. JJ was nice to send me a preliminary engineering report for $29,000, right? It's like, yeah, preliminary engineering report. We didn't move on that because I'm going to see where this goes. But that's another one. How do we get that street and get water out so we're not causing flooding in those areas as well? So to kind of cap from 21 to 26, what we've done from the general side fund, which is streets, sidewalks, stormwater at this point, fire, police, everything general fund related that's not a utility. Locust Street culvert replacement in 2021. Locust Street, where it's really bumpy, we did replace that culvert. So that was $220,000 out of general fund, just where it got paid from. One of the things we have in this year's capital road improvement is we know we fixed the stormwater in that area because we replaced that culvert. We know we pipe bursted the sewer several years ago, so probably need to do something. We have to do it again. And you can look at all those squares, all the service lines have been replaced. Let's do that thing and let's repay it next fiscal year. I know we're not talking about that tonight. in 2022, Redwood Circle culvert. That's one side of Redwood Circle. It was 173,000. That pretty much just collapsed on us. The other side needs to be replaced. Yeah, it's too old. Yeah, we've got to do that. PEC analysis, modeling, and opinion of cost, $100,000. CEC stormwater utility development that we're right in right now was $55,000. And stormwater specifications and standards, that's another 29. We've spent over a 5-year period nearly $600,000 on stormwater, and that has been very reactive, very reactive. So next steps, again, we kind of talked about it. The general fund alone, even though everything looks great, we're starting to see a lot of these TIFs, things come out from industry that's been here a while. We're starting to see more money in the general fund without raising property taxes, right? So we're using that to do our streetscapes and some sidewalk stuff. But how do we do stormwater, right? How do you make that mix? So we're at a crossroad, like, do we do streets, but stormwater's tied to streets? Water takes care of water, sewer takes care of sewer. So how do we really look at that over a long-term process? A solution is the utility, the user fee. It is. And that's kind of mine how we got here today. They're going to pull up their presentation on the ERU, the user fee. A lot of things we talked about here will kind of correlate back to some of these projects and timelines and how we're going after that type of thing and how we make some of those matches. Anything you want to add to it? So you get yours? Any questions from you guys on my part of this?
Looked at what the administrative cost is going to be to creating a new utility as far as someone in charge, secretaries, whatever. What is that costing?
Let me see here just a second. Okay. No, good question, good question. Very, very minimal for everyone.
Would the MTS study and the engineering study that they have done been provided, will it be provided for public consumption, like through, like how you do the water studies and website?
Maybe if they were, the original stormwater model was originally presented to the commission a while back. I need to go back and look if it was at that time attached to the agenda. It would, yeah.
The
I was-
MTAP study
was on there.
It had its own, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the time of the MTAS study, so I don't know where it is on the agenda, but I do know the CEC stormwater model was presented in 24 or 25.
So I can just like look at that in the search bar and find it.
You should be able to. If you don't
Okay.
find it, let me know. I'll try to locate it. Michael Haywood,
So absolutely,
probably help us
and
too.
that's a white paper that we can.
Yeah.
put
Oh, yeah,
on
we
the
can
site.
give you that too. Yeah.
CEC is going to be more of analysis and the modeling itself, and probably more presentation type. I don't think you had white paper on it because it was modeling and field data and collection and building that model so they could see the flow of water.
Okay,
Like those tributaries I showed you,
you know,
JJ had these nice little maps and he could move things in around these little, what you call them? I call them squares, but they were,
Catchments.
yeah, whatever that word is. So it was more of a modeling analysis and more than white paper. To the point, what do we need to do?
yeah.
That's why JJ, are you presenting or Mr. Steve?
And you can jump in whenever for questions or whatever.
Go. And is it in? You ready?
Yeah. So, yeah, we are CEC and we've been working with the city for 3.5, 4 years now. Just a little agenda, what we'll run through here real fast in the presentation. First, why is the stormwater utility necessary? How are we going to accomplish it for the city? Who's going to be impacted by it? What is the outcome and when will it become effective? And then just a little look at the proposed funding plan. So why is it necessary? I think we all know that the infrastructure is old and like needs to be renovated, updated, and there's ponding and nuisance flooding issues all throughout the city in private yards and in streets and all. And so that's what the city, like Philip and all, gave us lots of areas where they were like, we get complaints here or there. all the time. And so we like honed in on those areas and tried to get more information there and build out the model further in those areas so that we could get more clear results of like what's happening with stormwater in those areas. And then also with all the development that is happening, this helps set up the city to address that down the road. So how will it be accomplished? So here the table on the left would be the residential tiered rate table. So the monthly fee starting out that we're proposing is if your parcel is less than or equal to 10,000 square feet, it would be $3.50 a month. And 10,000 square feet is roughly a quarter of an acre. And so then we broke it out to where every residential parcel would not be paying the same fee. If it was 10 to 15,000 square feet, it would be $5.25. Or if it's over 15,000 square feet, then you would be paying $7. And then the other table is for non-residential, so commercial, industrial, everything else, the fees that they would pay based off of the amount of impervious area on their lot. And so here, I'll go on to the next slide.
JJ, will you kind of explain, 'cause this is where it's a little
Yes.
confusing for me, that is based off the equivalent,
Residential.
equitable, so
Yes.
square footage, and it's all
Yes.
equitable across the board.
Yes. So we can skip back and forth here, but we basically we looked at the amount of impervious area on parcels, and why we did that is because stormwater, the amount of stormwater that's contributed to the city system comes from the amount of impervious area that is on a parcel. Because that's where all the water runs off instead of infiltrating into the grass and all. And so we figured out what the average amount of impervious area was on residential lots, and then from there we made it simpler on the city, like because the city doesn't want to be keeping up with the exact amount of impervious area on every residential lot. That is a huge task. No one wants to do that. So that's why we based the residential piece off of parcel size instead of impervious area, just to simplify the administrative piece in the long term. And then, but for non-residential, your commercial lots and everything, the city will keep track of how much impervious area is on each lot and then figure which tier that they fall into on there, and then they will be charged according to that. But yeah, so yeah, just example of what impervious area is your roofs, driveways, sidewalks, and patios. Anything that when it rains, the water runs off and it doesn't go into the ground. And just for like numbers' sake, there's roughly 1,900 residential properties within the city and roughly 360 non-residential properties. So that's what we used and started calculating what amount of money we would get, and that's how we worked backwards to figure out the fee and like did multiple iterations. And then yeah, those pictures are just kind of the aerials showing where we measured the impervious areas. So what is the outcome? Hopefully the stormwater infrastructure over time will be improved and maintained better than it has been. We will reduce stormwater concerns. It'll be safer because the water will go through pipes under the roads instead of being on the roads when you're out driving in the rain. And then there will be more support for growth. Building out the infrastructure makes it easier for new companies or whatever to come and tie in and make it just like, yeah, it works better. Then we are also working on the stormwater management ordinance, so regulations being in place so that any issues that pop up in the future with stormwater, we can point back and say, this is the standards the city has. And then also any new development that comes, they can easily see this is what they're required to do to meet a standard for Mount Pleasant, all pertaining to stormwater. and then we will have like key people in place that are educated and know how to maintain the infrastructure, the programs, and compliance with the regulations. So that is like the administrative piece, like keeping the programs moving, and then like different consultants like us or different people who would be helping move that along, and then like Public Works knowing how to keep it maintained and all. So the city is hoping to implement the fee on September 1st, and so fingers crossed we can make that happen. So yeah,
Can I add to that a little bit?
yes,
So I anticipate this being on the agenda probably May and June, 2 readings. But I don't think we can implement it July 1st. So September 1st, and maybe enough time, it may be a January 1st. Because limited staff and already stretched pretty thin. Yes, sir, Stacy.
When you go back, I guess, to the slide that gives the cost, does that include, I guess, the square feet or whatever? Is that your yardage or whatever? That's what it'll be based on?
that's based off of your whole parcel
Okay, that's what,
Yeah.
okay.
for the residential, yeah.
It's pulled from the property tax data that the state provides right now, so that's how JJ.
Mine is 4.5 acres, so that's what it would be.
Yeah, so 4.5 acres, you would fall in the third category of over 50,000 square feet. Yes, so here, this is the breakdown of the 5-year plan that we're proposing with the city. Is for the first year, the fee, the base fee, so that 10,000 or under square feet would be $3.50. And then incrementally each year, it would increase until in the 5th year, it's $9.75 per month. And so then, like the bottom table just shows the total 5-year residential cost. And so over a 5-year period, you would pay $400 if you're in the lowest tier, $600 in the middle tier, or $800, and that's total spread out over 5 years. So it is not going to impact any specific household too much. And then the rest of the top table, the revenue there, the second row of revenue is calculating how much the fees are bringing in. Then we're subtracting out the expenses over the 5 years, just kind of like your question. And then we were like, what are we going to base this number off of? What amount of money are we wanting into that account by a specific time? And so for that, we went back to the capital improvement project that Philip just talked about. That was roughly $15 million of investment. And we are like going to work closely with the city trying to go after federal and state grant funding. And those grants will pay typically 80%, and the city is expected to pay 20%. And so 20% of that 15 million is 3 million. And so the way we're setting this up is that by year 5, you would have the amount required to make all the improvements that we have currently found that needs to happen throughout the city. Oh, yeah.
You did a great job, JJ. Can I summarize a little bit on it? So, yeah, you explained it pretty well. So when we put it in front of you, we are basing off that 350 for that equivalency. But I don't want you. I wouldn't have put a 5-year plan in front of you because that is current conditions, current structures. We all know we have probably 350, 400 residential, and we're still building in Sherry Glen. So what I would do is say approve a 1 or 2 year, and let's reevaluate because the goal is to get here. On the operations part, as Mr. Lacey had asked, we'll have to hire another accountant to help with all this. But as far as operations, we're going to do it with CEC, the engineering. Do we have a breakdown? Do we need? Or is this it on that?
This is.
Okay. So the 200 revenues expenses, the 200,000 a year, as you see, that's going to be one employee, and it's going to be an accounting employee. The rest of it will be done through engineering, outsourcing, those kind of things. There are some items that we put in that for training for employees, so it's going to take some time. This is new to us, right? So we're going to rely heavily on them on the operations. But the goal is to grab this because without a doubt, we're going after 80-20. 80-20. And we've got to have that match. We got that match. Again, JJ says we can do this in 5 years. It'll be 10 years. It'll be 10 years. So I think we pause. Where are we at? What are we on track for? What has come online? Because everybody comes online is going to pay that user fee. So even though we projected 5 years at today's, what's in our city, the 1,900 home, the 1,900 residential and the how many commercial was 60. We're basing off that. We know that changes within 2 years. So when I do put this in front of you, it's going to be off of 350 in year 2 to 506. And then we pause to see where we're at on the capital. Even you look at the expenses, these are just estimates. Kind of where we're at right now. But we try to really think this out. What is the bare bones? What do we got to have? Got to have help with the building, the county part of it. As far as in the field, we got to train some folks. So right off the bat, even if we get this implemented or it passes next budget year, it may be January 1st before we even see it because we got to get this, do a lot of things in-house. You know, do a lot of training, those things. So that's why I say, in a perfect world, we can probably do this in 5, but it's probably a 10-year process, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Sorry. Is that all the?
Yes, that is.
Philip, so 80-20 actually gives you $18 million in 5 years, right? That works.
No, so what I was trying to do, the 15 million.
Yeah, but we're gonna have 3 million to match the 15, so that gives you 18 total, right? At the end of 5 years?
Yeah.
Instead of 14.
Thank you. And in engineering probable cost, and I've lived that a lot. No offense. Because it's hard to really, and they do a good job of getting that, but this
It's a
is a
huge undertaking.
really high cost until they really get into, and we just understand the problems, we understand the modeling, but when we actually get into surveying and looking and going through plans, that's why I say we don't put in an invitation for 5 years, we look at it maybe at a 2-year basis and we reevaluate from there. We tried it, we went as low as we could in constructing this to where, how do we meet that 3.2, what we know today? The operations, that is what it is, but the goal is to fix the problems, right? So we've got to get that revenue or that fund balance to be able to make those matches. That's kind of our thought process. Where we are right
Are you projecting 10 years, that kind of growth in the plan? Or is that just our goal at 5 years?
So at 1,900, can y'all do the math real quick? 1,900 at 2,300, what would that user be for high density? That's where everybody likes it. So $350 a month, right? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, for an extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I mean, it's hard to do, but we know that's been approved. We know the dirt's being turned. They will be coming online within the next few years.
Yeah.
So everything we base this off now is the 1,900 residential and the 360 commercial industrial. That's what we're basing off now.
And the growth that he's talking about is what's already been approved, that's
Yeah,
coming
we have-
online
that's
in the
not
next
these
5
figures.
years
That's just
too.
current
Nothing
parcel data.
new, just what was approved like 2-3 years ago, they're finally turning dirt now.
Right.
So just that growth, that's not in this number.
Yeah, so this would be a 5-year plan if none of them built the first house. Well, you already see a few of them being built. Anyway. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So what I don't want to see happen is, let's be excused to, let's start approving more subdivisions so we can get more people paying.
Exactly.
I know we've already got 400 homes over here, but I don't want to start seeing, oh, let's build another 400 on this side of town, another 400 over here.
Just for the tax revenue.
So Chris said something that I agree and disagree with wholeheartedly. Water is a holdback, but water is not going to be a holdback for us. We're going to fix it, right?
Right.
It's going to take time. It's a holdback, but it's not a holdback, because that's the main purpose every day is, why aren't we at 40% loss? How do we get down to where we should be, right? So that does bring more water. And we're going to talk about zoning next. If someone comes in and it's zoned and we have the resources,
You have to give
how do you stop that? Now, we have an opportunity to update our zoning ordinance, land use plan, right? We have that opportunity now to talk about that. But good question. Chris made a good statement that I agree and disagree with, because Pat's going to drop that water loss. We're not going to make it and not know where it goes. Sewer, we invested, you know, you guys know, the city invested a lot of money in wastewater treatment, and we've tripled our capacity, so it's there. Gas is an issue, but, yeah. With that being said, I think we learned a lot in the last few years over high density and things like that.
You said some of the stormwater goes under people's homes right now.
Mhm.
So who's, when we transfer this into the proper drainage, who's gonna be responsible for correcting that
Are
drain
we gonna-
storage underneath?
Are we gonna fill it in?
I mean, is that part of that cost?
You see what I did
That was
there?
my question too.
I went there and I went there.
Put it into that like we did the water lines?
So we do part of their block running on their homes, the laundromat. Avon, where they're carried, their backyard, we cambered it, there's a block structure that goes from there to Wall Street. And those houses were built, they piped in from the basements into that drainage. So that was allowed in the fifties. We got to break that. So what do we do from there? I don't know. We'll talk a lot of Ford, I'll talk a lot about CC. I think it's our responsibility to make it right, but I have no idea. But that's why we're here.
I also think it would be beneficial to tell everybody else that wasn't at a strategic meeting about if our population grows, the state making us do this.
Yeah, so when we hit 10,000 people, we are required to have an MS4, which stands for
Municipal separate stormwater sewer system.
sewer system. Yes, we will be required to do that. For once. Mount Pleasant is being really proactive. I still think it'd be many years before we hit 10,000. To be honest, I'm not sure we'll ever really be over 10,000, because you think about, and I've shared a lot of these numbers with elected officials. Columbia, Spring Hill, partner cities, Columbia's built roughly Spring Hill's built roughly 5,000 homes in a 5-year period. Columbia, roughly 4,700. Mount Pleasant has built 100 in a 5-year period.
That's good.
Right. They built more homes in a 5-year period than we will probably ever have because of limited water sources and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind when we're talking about new development coming in or whatever. So not to throw shade at anybody, that's just our community and where we're at.
Where's the easiest place to just get I'm sure it's around, but just a zoning map? Because obviously a lot of this, where would R3 go, where depends on where things are already zoned or what could potentially be rezoned. Where would somebody be able to just look at a map and say, this is what it looks like right now?
It was on our website. Chris put it off because there was some colors that were not right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and we're getting a link put on the website so that everyone can access that free. It's an updated map.
Okay.
I keep that updated as zoning comes in.
Yeah.
But right now, it's only accessible to the city employees.
Okay.
But we want to make sure that that is a correct document, also to where the citizens can open that up and view it.
Yeah.
So actually, that was talked about today.
And sometimes people probably think like, obviously you can't just put R3 anywhere you want to. We have zoning ordinances and things like that. People might think based off of the energy that was with 247 stuff that they're just going to do whatever they want, wherever they want. Like there's obviously, zoning ordinances, ways to change zoning ordinances. So people can at least look at the map and be like, hey, this is kind of how the city's planned. They can at least have a reasonable expectation for what the growth can be in a reasonable respect. If they can see the map, but I mean, I'm actually what it looks like.
And it's on the website now.
Okay.
It's just, I think what he's saying is that there were some that are incorrect, and he's gonna put a corrected copy. Is that right? Or he pulled it off.
He pulled it off because it was way wrong.
Way off. No
Way
problem.
wrong. That's why I got to.
It's being corrected.
we're wrong sometimes, but we don't want to know we're wrong, at least on there.
Yeah.
Right? We're
Yeah.
wrong a lot.
That's fair.
That's good. We know we're wrong on that, so we'll make it a priority.
Okay, so I had a question, and I know you said that there was so I bought a home behind City Hall, and we had our home inspected and everything, and my gutters went down into the ground. And so our home inspector was like, oh, that's just where it goes into the city's system that he assumed existed. And we had a lot of foundation work that we've spent like tens of thousands of dollars on. And I'm not it's just so how can you warn people like, hey, Like, or, you know, how does that, because I wouldn't have known, you know, I would have just assumed like, there's a system down there that takes care of that. Well, I don't think he would know that the city didn't have a system because there's no way to tell unless he could like go underground, I'm assuming, that there is a system or not. Well, my gutters were piped, like they were going into the ground, like there was a channel that they were supposed to drain through. And it was piling up on the foundation of my home, and I still have like $30,000 more of repairs to do.
So one of the things that happened there, and it's something that the city didn't know we had, right?
Right.
We know we have a system. Somebody- we have mine. It's either going to the sewer, which is not right.
Right.
Or it's going into the system that we didn't know we owned, right? One of the other.
So yeah, I don't know.
That's,
I'm gonna step in there. So what we're doing now is looking at like a comprehensive stormwater zoning ordinance in a system. That's never been done before here in California. So before, people just built houses and thought about that's where, you know, that lot. Where do we want the water to go at that point? And when everybody did that, when they weren't subdivisions, they were just little houses that one at a time. There wasn't like a grand planning. And a lot of these houses in the downtown area and some of these areas that are flagged as being the most impacted are older. And so they might have been part of a system that developer at that time put in, and then the city kind of inherited only when it got to public way, right? So now what we're trying to do is go back and all that kind of chaotic stormwater that's been put in place in all these different places. So I think back in 2018, I think Philip started the PowerPoint in 2021, but I think 2018 was when we had here, and a lot of people in that area like came to the city and said, well, my house is flooding, fix it. And, you know, that's why we started engaging the INTEST study to see like, okay, is it our stormwater system or is it not? And the result of that stormwater study was that it was not. It was only when it was in the public way. So
That makes sense because one man owned like, and it was subdivided, so it makes sense that that was like his.
right.
Yeah.
And so when you go to like the planning commission meetings now, you know, stormwater is part of every like subdivision.
Right.
Or every site plan. But, you know, I can't attest to what was happening in whatever year these have some of these older houses. But all of that is going to be addressed going forward, but, you know, we'll have to figure out in those areas on a case-by-case basis. I'm assuming some of those projected costs are in one of those numbers, but.
Well, I've got mine ripped up to fix, so I'm not worried. I mean, I'm just like, I feel sorry for future people because it was a headache for me for sure.
so thank you, Cory, well said. Again, find a problem, right?
Mhm.
What are the solutions and. we'll
I
go
wish
from
y'all
there.
could start tomorrow. I would get extra.
We made a good time on
Say that on
that.
record.
I would get the
Um,
When would it go? Like, yep. If the money started getting paid or collected in in September of this year, could it be like staggered, like if y'all did get a grant?
JJ's already working on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Our last conversation, we're already going after it. right?
Figure out what that would be. The first time I put this together, I was way too like ambitious and like had all $15 million within 35 years, and they're like, no, that's so yeah, we like Conway and Gray is one of them that would be a quicker fix that it's only I think 17,000
So,
the like
Good point, JJ. We put those kind of in operations
yes.
and not in the capital. This is strictly
Yes.
to
Big stuff.
go after this option to fund the big tributary, two tributaries.
Yes.
The small ones like Gray, like they're not small, like Tri Street,
Affordable.
Conway, Redwood Circle. Those are operations. Again, that's $200,000 a year. That's probably one employee that we're gonna split in between funds because they ought to do more than just one job. We all do one job. The rest of that is engineering help. They're helping us with some of these things, and then actually fixing some of those. It's not a part of the bigger picture. That's how my mind lays it out there.
But we will have to let it build for a little bit, because I mean, I cannot hire a person till there's some money in there, because we gotta write payroll, we gotta do the benefits, so that's like, we'll do the implementation with the current staff, and then the future of, once, I don't know how many months, I think JJ has a lot of that even broken down, but it'll probably be a few months before we can actually even hire a person.
I guess what
Correct.
I was trying to get at, like, if we will be collecting a stormwater
We'll be
fee
building,
before anybody sees the benefit.
correct.
of the stormwater utility, that's fair.
But
Yeah.
behind the
Yeah.
scenes, we will start going
Implement
after the
procedures.
state revolving fund, the 80/20s, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be naive, it seems it takes a year and a half to get any of that anywhere, right, guys? I mean, it's just what we see, what I see.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, we're trying to get those funding mixes, and then once we get those mixes, it's gonna be very multi-phased. Like, you just can't go in and fix the Halon problem in, a month. It's gotta be phased, you can't shut the whole street down. We really need to start down at Railroad, we need to get it, and that's another thing, there's a railroad. You're trying to work with the railroad?
That's
We
what I was getting
gotta
ready
work,
to
we
ask.
gotta work, we gotta get that under the railroad.
But how are you gonna work with the railroad?
JJ, how we gonna work with the railroad?
Because it is a big problem.
We may have to divert it around the railroad. Build a bridge over the railroad. I don't know. We gotta do it though.
Wind up with the can opener like that.
I need the entertainment.
Right.
That obviously the railroad is a huge issue, and we have to try to work through that to get the water to that Sugar Creek. But you've seen some of the pictures on the railroad, and you've seen the tributaries. That's where all the water from the town, from both tributaries, they're sitting there. So we got to fix that drainage. It's already in flood zone. Fix that drainage, and then also get that through there. But JJ, really, really smart. He may be able to slow this water down in town somewhere and hold it. Yeah. He can slow this water down and hold it where it trickles down through there, and maybe we don't have to do the railroad. There's all kinds of options once we get into the design. Did I say that? Yeah. That's what I'd like to do. Instead of through the railroad, let's slow it down. Let's hold it somewhere and let it trickle.
Retention ponds, is that right? The retention ponds?
You got
I've learned
retention and
something.
a detention.
Build a dam.
All places got its own dam.
Dam now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
One thing you gotta remember when you talk about the railroad, I mean, once the creek gets up, that's it, there's no other place for the water to go. So it's really,
Slow it down, JJ.
there's not
Yeah, slow it down.
at the railroad, because the river is already up. of the floodplain.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in here. That's a really good point. There's improvements that can be made, but in major flood events, you're limited, right? There's just, you can only do so much because the receding stream is there and it's gonna be at a certain level.
Itself, that's right.
That's right.
And you guys built this off the 5 inches over 24 hours, right? Or is what you showed?
Yeah,
Those
that's
tributaries?
Yes, yeah.
We've had a lot more than that in recent years. Those 100-year floods come around.
Getting more acres.
The pictures I've shown in the slide, those were very significant events, and I'm not sure that we could probably make it better, but you're still going to see that water in those type of events.
This
That's
may
where
be
we're
a,
gonna send all that water, I'm sorry, down to Sugar Creek, all the water that,
That's where it goes. Eventually, that's where it's supposed to go. Or, yeah, that's where it's going.
all go that way.
there's a lot of talk about water shortage issues. Is there any way, and this could be a different conversation or even a different system, where stormwater or rainwater can be collected for use? And instead of us dissipating it into a creek, say, we're collecting the water that falls on our houses for water, just some type of way of doing that. I don't know if that's a part of it.
Yes, we definitely explored that because Ricky Oakley, who works with us, also does the water distribution and he doesn't do sewer, yeah. He does the water distribution stuff. And yeah, me and him have talked a lot trying to figure out any ways that we could harvest it and then send it to the water treatment plant.
Yes.
So that's definitely something that we're still looking at.
And probably at 5 in front of
Like, yes, it definitely increases cost.
Yeah, understood.
Practical, right? Gotta be practical.
You just get a bucket crew, people will start.
Okay, we've asked that question.
Volunteers.
Volunteer committee.
Volunteer committee.
Barrel in my.
You got about 4 people that will help you with that.
Don't look at us for a bucket.
Busy
So-
clean up trash.
I think we're
Like
right.
convicts.
So that was 45 minutes for the first subject.
That's good.
I know these guys will be leaving, but when Will presents, there's gonna be a pretty cool QR code that's on the website where you can go review the information tonight and also the feedback. And he'll explain that in his presentation, so thank Will for that. But, any other questions that we move on to the next subject? Very good. You guys are gonna leave.
Can I ask a quick question? It's just about like, so I've read about like stormwater and how like whenever it flows, like I don't know, I'm just asking, and this is gonna be dumb. What about like pollutants that get into that water, like from the different manufacturers and all that? Like I mean, it's going in there anyways, but if like you're, trenching it to the creek, is that an issue? And I'm saying this because I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something MS4s they're required by the state to deal with permanent stormwater quality treatment. We're focused primarily here on the water quantity, the flooding issues and things of that nature. It doesn't mean that we can't incorporate passive water quality treatments in the process. So, for example, you mentioned about your roof drains going straight into the ground. Honestly, having roof drains splash on splash blocks and having the water go across your yard is a simple way that a homeowner can improve water quality. But you get some filter in there, you get the water somewhat soaking in, so there's less of a load on the public infrastructure. But then with regard to the commercial or industrial properties, one of the things that comes along with an MS4 is checking for cross connections. So, for example, is a floor drain tied into the storm sewer system when it should be tied into the sanitary sewer system? That's a whole nother level that having a stormwater user fee set up to have a steady revenue source to help support programs like a cross connection program in the future, that'd be great. We can kind of stop those kinds of things, redirect them. And then there's other regulations that come along with that having a revenue source like this will help the city be able to meet those needs and improve our quality.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that answer, and I appreciate your time.
You are. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, go get that grant.
I'm only charging 2,500 for the TV. 25?
Oh, they're a lot cheaper. They're a lot cheaper. Maybe not.
Yeah, we charge that for city.
So, this is Will Hager with KCI. Will's been around here as long as I have, probably longer than that. So when I started here in 2013, Will was our contract planner, so he's had a lot of detailed, intimate information about Mount Pleasant from that time. When did you actually start?
It would have been close to 2013, 2014.
Okay, so about the same time I come back, the second time. Lot of knowledge there, so I pay attention when Will speaks because of the knowledge and the history that we have.
Thank you. My name's Will Hager with KCI. So we're hired to support Chris and other city departments in the review of items that are submitted to planning commission, ordinance updates, zoning code, or subdivision regs, anything else that comes up. So a little background is probably appropriate here. The current zoning code was adopted around 2018, 2019. And since then, we've been working with it, we've been working through it, and we've identified things that are just kind of pain points, some things that we don't feel quite work the way we want them to, or could be improved pretty easily. In the same time, we've seen a lot of proposed developments that we weren't comfortable with, and some requests that were submitted, fair enough, but we didn't feel like we had all the tools we wanted to work with those applicants and those developers to get something that the city would accept and benefit from. So with those things in mind, we tried to add some different just amendments and tweaks to your current zoning ordinance. Some things are pretty significant, others are pretty minor, some are legitimately just grammatical. So it kind of runs the gamut from big to small. So I just want to give a quick overview of some of these now. It's available as a draft ordinance. It'll go before the Planning Commission and on the City Commission in coming months. But at the end, like Philip mentioned, there'll be a QR code and then a web link that we would love you all to take advantage of and submit comments, review the items that have been discussed earlier tonight, and look at this ordinance and see if there's thoughts that you might be able to provide to help us improve it even more. So really quickly, some of these things will be very evident where the motivation to change came from. First and foremost, we really feel like we need a more defined annexation process and annexation section to help us work with applicants, but also to help the Planning Commission and the City Commission perform their duties. So we've added some guidance there. Accessory dwellings have also become more and more popular with folks in Mount Pleasant, so we wanted to speak to those a bit differently. There's a lot of benefits to accessory dwelling units and accessory structures, but we want to give some parameters to those. The other is high density residential. In a lot of ways, your ordinance is very attractive to certain developers, right? But that high density residential needs to be thoughtful, needs to be well placed, it needs to benefit the city and not just one particular owner group or development group. So we've tried to, currently it's suggested that the R3 high density residential is only around the square to support local businesses. But what we've seen is that people want it along the highway, closer to Columbia, things like that. So we've tried to modify that a little bit also. On the other end of the spectrum, we have several parts of town that we can't feasibly serve with sanitary sewer. And that's pushed us to consider a large lot residential zoning district as well. This will go a long way into preserving some of the aesthetics of Mount Pleasant and give developers and applicants another option when they're looking to develop something here in Mount Pleasant. Also gives the Planning Commission and City Commission an option to suggest to developers that are interested in doing something here. Light industrial permitted uses. Right now you have 2 industrial zoning districts, but when you look at the uses, they're very similar. So we've tried to identify some specific ones in your light industrial that may not be appropriate. They include things like racetracks and airports and high impact facilities. So we tried to only put those in the heavy industrial zone. This next one is the one I'm probably most excited about that's been discussed a decade, probably a decade. But we kind of feel like we're getting to the point where this is going to be a more viable option for Mount Pleasant, and it's a plan unit development overlay. This is a tool, it's a zoning tool, it's been used in many communities, several all around, including Columbia, Spring Hill, very popular. What it allows you to do is to enter into negotiations and agreements with developers so that the Planning Commission and eventually the City Commission have more input and control over what's built. Because when you're just working with base zoning, there's a lot of question marks that still remain, including the architecture and street furnishings and open space requirements. So,
can you explain why that's not something that we need, why we need this ordinance?
It's just not in the zoning ordinance. Yeah. So we would, it's a separate chapter. It would be an overlay that sits on top of your base zoning. And then that overlay would dictate what can be built there, how.
Practical standpoint, like a lot of times we have people come to the Planning Commission and say, like, I want to build this thing. I want to build this subdivision, this how many houses I'm going to put. I know your zoning ordinance says you can have this many, but I don't really want to do this. And y'all probably heard us talk about it at the Planning Commission level and at the City Commission. You can't approve the project, you can approve the zone only. And so this tool would allow that Planning Commission, either the Planning Commission or City Commission,
Both.
to like to actually make some negotiations and trades to approve the picture that they're presenting,
Right.
instead of just the zone that they're asking for.
Yeah, that's a great point. Sometimes I know we've had conversations with people that might be requesting R3 zoning, but they really want to do like a 10,000 square foot lot, but that R3 is the best option for them to ask for. Or they want to do a mix of lot sizes across 100 acres and make more of a focused community. But we can, they may have every intention to do that, but things happen, right? Financial things happen, markets shift, so we can't take that as the gospel because we don't have a tool to document that and record it and tie it to that property. But the PUD would allow you to do that. There's other ways to do it, but a PUD's probably the most straightforward and simple way to document those types of agreements. Then, like I said, we have some cleanup issues. We had some references that didn't quite make it to where they needed to go in this current version. We tried to clean that up and then just kind of use some more plain language where possible.
Can I add to the PUD? Sure. And my basic understanding is if it gets approved, even if that developer or owner sells, it's still got to be what was approved or come back in front of them. So I think that takes a lot of the heartache over the years with, especially the R3 zoning, because it could be all apartments or it could be 5,000 square foot lots, right? So right. So that's kind of what like that gives teeth to say, well, this is approved. Even if you sell it, you still got to do this unless you want to go back in front.
Right.
Okay.
And you can, it sits on top of that zoning. So if someone comes through and asks the planning commissioners, I want R3 zoning, they can say, well, we would be interested in recommending this if you did a PUD. That becomes part of the conversation. Maybe they're still interested, maybe they're not. But that's how you can kind of navigate those questions. All right. So the first one is annexation. Obviously, we've been through a lot with annexation recently. It's never easy. The state is at times changing the rules on us as well. So we've tried to update this as best we can, document the process, and there's several sections here. Oh, I also need to point out the boards out in the hallway provide some additional details on these items also. So if you want to look at those, might be helpful as well. It's really all I have to share here. It's never fun, but we need to have a well-defined process just so everybody understands what to be expected. Basically, there's two ways to annex with an intensity, but there's really only one feasible way to do it, and that's by owner consent. The city can annex through a referendum. It's very costly, usually unpopular. Probably don't want to do that unless there's some really important reason to do so, but it is an option. I know this is a lot of text, so I'll kind of go through to kind of keep it moving, but we can revisit things if you want to. The procedure basically starts with a pre-application meeting with the staff. We've had some discussions whether that should go to city commission to gauge their level of interest. It should just proceed to the planning commission for a recommendation, similar to a zoning item. So I'm not sure where we sit with that currently. But
and just for clarity, the state law outlines how you annex. That's where that comes from. What we are trying to do is figure out when somebody presents the application for annexation, like what's our first internal step? Where does it go first? Like, does it go straight to the planning commission and the city commission hasn't heard of it yet, or that's kind of the argument Will and I have been having for a while. But where does it go? Does it start with the commission level as just a heads up? Because we're limited to like what we can't restrict applicants further past the state law, but we also don't want to go through this horrible process if we're gonna get into something that the city runs for. So we're trying to figure out the process around the state law to make sure
right.
we're compliant.
It's not just an uncomfortable process, it's a really expensive process for the city because there's notification requirements that are very intense, very lengthy, and those mailers cost money. Cost Chris a lot of time, cost staff and support help a lot of time too.
Horrible process.
It is a complicated process. Like Bill said, the law has changed recently, and
Yes, that's a big
That's-
case again.
yeah.
Yes.
There's a possibility of changing it again.
Right, and so what our current zoning ordinance says about annexation is like one sentence.
Pretty limited.
It really is. When you're annexing, you have to have the zoning done at the same time, which created its own set of problems. And so we're trying to address that.
Right.
now.
Right. So it is a little bit of a moving target. We feel like this complies with current PCA, and we may have to revisit it if things continue to change. The good news is that it does provide for very broad public notice, so it should not ever be a surprise to people. Annexations, interestingly enough, get their own size sign for public notice. And so the intent is for everyone to be informed and for the planning commissioners and city commissioners to be aware of that as well. I can stop for questions about annexation, or we can hold those. It's covered. Anything? It's burning.
Yeah, well, I do have a question.
Her face was like, I have a question.
Well, now I'm like, but I'm stuck at home on that. It's like kind of a loaded question, maybe, I guess. So I know that there's no law saying you have to work with the county for the annexation as far as like the services they provide as schools and such. But is there not a way to do like an interlocal agreement that says, hey, we will run it by the county? That way they're not playing catch up on schools and the services that they provide. And that way we're not raising our taxes on city and county.
They still never do.
So, it doesn't answer your question, but about every 3 months, I get a letter from Argentina, from Superior about how many homes have been approved and all that, for their planning purposes, but they don't answer the tax question.
Yeah, I just don't, it's hard on people when you're like, I've watched my taxes go up hundreds of dollars on both ends, and it's just kind of, you know, nobody wants their taxes to go up. But I mean, if it's a worthy thing, then, but I just don't want to see my taxes go up for new schools that are needed and my kids don't go to school. So, I think that's fair. So that's all I
And I
have.
do think that the county did enact the impact fees type thing a few years ago to help with that, and the county has not raised their taxes. I was there 7 years, it didn't raise in the 7 years, and I do not believe that they have raised it in the last couple of years. Now, taxes have gone up because all of our property values
Right,
have
they
gone
read
up.
your
Yes.
because I know that I've paid, I guess I paid 300 more with the county and about 250 more with the city than when we first.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, like, most, it's because of our property values changing more than it is the actual rate. But yeah, and I think somebody mentioned earlier, said that, but as part of the annexation documentation, we do have to send every school, the school board gets letters
It's
for every
right.
annexation.
State law says you send it to the mayor of Marion County, the 2 representatives from your area in the county that you're in, the school board, and that's very strict on when you have to send the letters and everything. And, you know, as you know from those meetings, they all came to the school board did, but the others came. I think there is proposed legislation about that.
Yes.
I think what you're asking though,
If that legislation doesn't pass, then what is the?
yeah,
Okay.
but that, I think a municipal point of view, that gives up a right that we have to the county. And, you know, so I don't know that if the city would support that option, you know, as far, if it wasn't. I can't, I don't have any control over that, but I would think that it's a municipal right to.
When I had another question about the urban growth boundary, our goal,
No, I do think county has said
Yeah.
that they want to do something about that with all the cities, and I'm sure we'd have to go through all of
They're
that when
already
they
in the
do.
process of
Yes.
working on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, is that gonna, is anything that you presented tonight, does that take into account of the urban growth boundaries or any of that change?
No, it's
No.
the urban growth boundary is set by the county growth plan.
Right,
And I don't know that Murray County's has been updated since the comp plan. And
I think it was in the 80s the last time it was updated.
No,
Is it,
it's
or
been
something?
2000.
Oh, that must have been the plan that wasn't updated since the 80s.
All the zoning ordinances originated in 1980.
Yeah,
We did our first update in 2018. and
Yeah.
The county also was old and they updated it.
so to both of your points, I guess, there are other coordination tools that are available. Some of them haven't been revisited since they were first out. So, it sounds like that might be coming back. That's great to hear. I don't know that enough counties in our area to revisit those all. It's not easy, and there's plenty of other stuff to work on, right? So, but no, there are definite coordination requirements. We also can't just like come in and lock the door behind us. It's not practical to expect for growth to stop, especially in the region right now. What we can do though is update our tools and try to manage it the best we can to get the results that you want.
I will say this, and they don't answer any questions, but there's two schools in my place over 50 years old.
Right. Well, yeah, and they definitely need to be redone. But, and I also, the reason I ask is because it's seeing a farm and then a high density development and then a farm and then a manufacturing plant, it looks stupid. Like, it just looks dumb. And I think there should be some type of rural transition, like when you go from farm, you know, it wouldn't be high density development. It would be something that like subtly transitions you, not like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shock you. Yeah, like, where
I can talk to you for days. So.
You could talk to you for days.
Getting to our next topic.
Yeah.
So large lot residential zoning, this has been a topic for a while now. There are other communities similar to Mount Pleasant that have adopted these. One is Fairview, not too far away. So basically what it does, the intent is to maintain a rural aesthetic while allowing for some residential development. It may or may not be an actual working farm, but if you look at the minimum lot sizes, and we don't have a good comparison here, those are very large minimum lot sizes for a city municipal zoning district. So we're talking about 5 to 10 acres minimum. These are still all draft, so we can tweak these. Minimum lot width, so at the road, 250 feet of frontage, that allows you to space out driveways and keep from having like this little pocket of farmland next to some other higher developed piece. So the side setbacks and lot coverages are pretty low. And then the permitted uses are just outlined to the right. Typical residential uses, nothing too dramatic there. There may be some spin-off amendments that we want to think about too. Chris and I talked about this a little bit. You know, in a true agricultural setting, your barn or your accessory building might not be behind your house. It might be closer to the road for operational purposes. So that might be something we want to think about. There may be some other things that we want to tweak as we go along, but I think this is a good starting point. I think we also have a lot of areas that we can't serve with sanitary sewer. So this might be a good option for those spots. Next is the planned unit development. Again, we've talked about this a little bit. It's basically just an overlay, sits on top of your zoning, better defines what's going to be built, what's it going to look like, what are the materials that are going to be used, just things like that. And it allows for planning commission and city commission to make more informed decisions, and it also holds the developer accountable to certain standards. So,
Is there a way we can add an H so we can call FUD rather than the PUD?
I wouldn't know what that is.
It's the random question.
All right. So there's a basic process. Starts with the pre-application meeting. We're trying to push for more of these so that we get higher quality applicants. We spend a lot of time working through some pretty small issues at times, so hopefully that'll help identify what should be included, and in time we'll learn what the planning commission's looking for, what the city commission's wanting to see, so that we can help them pull their application together. And then, you know, it can be pretty simple. Maybe we're looking at a certain type of street lights. Maybe it's just what kind of fencing is going to be allowed. Or maybe we can get into
Where the park will be.
where's the park going to be? What's it going to have in it? Is it pickleball? Is it not pickleball? So pretty excited about this. We have talked about it for several years, and I think there's finally some momentum to adopt that. These are just our final edits. Mentioned these before. One thing that has kind of worked against us in a way is the requirement for irrigation on all site plans. When we're dealing with water supply issues, let's just not make that a hard requirement. They can still do it. And if they do it, they have to meet certain standards. But it didn't feel right to make it a hard requirement any longer. Again, we spoke about the modified uses for lighter industrial, just to clean that up. And then just some cleanup edits. Yes, sir.
Well, I guess I'm going back, I guess, to the large lots or whatever.
Okay.
So is there a limit that can be put on a parcel of land, whether it's 100 acres, 40 acres, or whatever? Can only so many homes or whatever have a septic system? Or does it have to go to something else after so many homes?
Well, typically septic systems are dictated by the soil test and the perk test. I think there's some new legislation that may affect how cities deal with those types of systems in the future. Typically, historically, cities control their growth best by saying where the sanitary sewer goes.
Right.
But when you're without that as an option, it's really your soils that dictate how many bedrooms can work on a property. With the large lot, I think the real defining factor here is that minimum lot size. Is it 5 acres? And you're going to get 8 lots on a 40-acre tract maximum. But then you've also got to meet your dimensional requirements with your lot frontage. And
the reason I'm saying that, I just believe somewhere down the road, I think environmental, it's gonna say these septic systems, it's gonna have to go to be treated.
I'll give you a personal story from a long time ago. So I grew up in London. We lived just outside of town in a neighborhood that was developed in the county, not on sewer. And there's a ton of kids. So when all these kids turned like 10, everybody's septic tank failed. So the city had to run in sewer out to this whole neighborhood with, I don't know, 60 homes on pretty big lots. Very expensive. So that's what we want to avoid whenever possible. There are options. I know we discussed step systems. Sometimes they can work great. Sometimes they may not. So that's being tested in a few places too. Still think, just personal, professional opinion, if we can serve it with sewer, that's your best option. Again, there may be some legislation that's being discussed this year that may make septic tanks a more viable option even within municipal limits. So we need to watch for that.
Were you speaking more about single septic or actually stale or drill when you were talking about Lebanon and even some of this?
Those were all old school.
Yeah. So I would assume this would be old school septic with fill line.
Yeah, you got 5 to 10 acres. You should, especially with the soils that y'all are. But it'll still need to be shown on the plat. This is something that we've run into recently. We need to know when things are being submitted, how they're going to be served.
I just know, you hear this stuff, and they say, well, when you get too many homes on, it's on, it's not being treated, all that water is going into the groundwater, and then it gets back into your drinking water or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I'm saying. I just think somewhere down the line, environmentalists would do something different, but we'll wait till that happens.
Yeah. Well, for now, it's a fully functioning septic tank is still a good option for these larger lot properties. But they have to submit it to TDEC and make sure that it's proven to treat what it needs to treat.
What's the minimum lot size for a septic tank?
Really no minimum lot size. You just have to have the adequate soils.
Just under an acre. So,
It can be pretty small, but your soils area may dictate the number of bathrooms you have. Might impact the building. Yes, sir.
So with the PUD, are you gonna, are we saying that's gonna be a requirement for developers, or is that just suggestion to make it easier for them to get approved if they use a PUD?
I'm not sure that we know how the planning commission or city commission want to use it, but if we had an area that most people agree needs to develop, but we're uncomfortable with that, base zoning that could be anything from a single family house to a 5-story condominium, making stuff up. The PUD would be something that they could adopt along with that zoning to control building heights or building types.
So it would make it easier for the developers if they just included a PUD when they came and said, hey, we want to do this R3, here's what we want to do with it.
It would also make it easier for the planning commission to.
Because when they sell it, they have to stick with the PUD, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot of times if the developer buy the land and sell the thing and then flip it to someone else.
That's a great point. I mean, the PUD in that instance would ride with the entitlements for that property, and you're not just stuck with the base zoning that doesn't define building types or where they are. So, I think, hopefully, in my mind, optimist. Hopefully it works for both parties. Hopefully it's something that the developer can work with, but that the community is supportive of too.
I just don't like the word PUD. That's what it is.
Think of it as a
I'm just gonna say the whole thing.
Thank you.
There you go.
development overlay.
There you go. I'm just gonna say the whole.
All right. Anything else? We've got some more information out in the hallway. I did want to this piece here. That's right.
Well,
Here we go.
Haywood, I won't, Haywood, we'll get it on our website too, so you can get it there.
Oh,
Gosh, yeah.
That.
There you go.
He doesn't want to give me the QR code.
So I'll share this with Philip also. You can post it wherever you want. And it'll be up. We haven't really set a deadline for it to wrap.
And so we'll leave it up. Again, I mean, we'll talk about it. I anticipate maybe, I don't know about the zoning ordinance when you're ready, but if the stormwater, probably April, no, maybe in June. So it's up until then. It depends on feedback and everything else we get, and we'll get to tweet and talk about and go from there.
So is this code gonna be available on the city website so we can let people know, hey,
Yes, sir. If Haywood, I think he can, I can, but he can put it up there,
All right.
and we're okay with it. We'll have that link and that, even the QR code.
I think we could go ahead and attach, I can ask JJ for his presentation
It's
as
already
well. Is it on the website?
All in this.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So this is the site that where you land. We've got a quick document library, just the materials we've discussed tonight, and then it's just a really open-ended share your thoughts. It can be anything. You'd like it to be supportive, like
Always, always.
but
Haywood
Great
just,
thing.
Haywood just messaged saying he's added the QR code to the video on the agenda, so when you guys are going through the agenda, you'll be able to see the video that has the QR code in there, he said so.
it's great. But basically, like all these links can be downloaded and you can review them. Stay here. We will be monitoring this, and it'll help us understand how many people have access to this, how they interact with it. So, if we need to let it run a little longer, but it helps us understand how many people are.
And I'm open to good old fashioned eye-to-eye conversation.
how long are we thinking before the new zoning map is ready?
It's not a new zoning map; it's just the ordinance piece. Chris has modified or corrected the zoning map.
Yeah, they're gonna put a portal on website so that citizens can access it and,
We want dates. We want times.
Is it already?
you know, government,
Is it ready to go?
we're having to
No, it's good.
farm that out
Yeah.
right now.
Is it edited though? Is it
Yes.
uploaded?
Yes,
Okay,
it is
so we
like
can get it
that.
uploaded in a timely manner.
Line up at Philip's office and we'll show you everything.
No appointment needed.
Leave it headache.
You'll leave with a headache.
Anything else?
Anyone else have any more questions?
It's not a question, I just thank you guys for having this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very informative, I learned.
We need to thank you for your recommendation.
That's it.
I'm pro vote.
Everything